Aguanta.
Start going back to the second row.
Come on up, sir. Vic, what was the last name?
15 Pearson.
Got it. Jquan Peterson.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Peterson, you're charged with reckless driving. You're facing up to 30 days and or a $500 fine. We're going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to you, sir.
Yes, Judge. On November 14th, 2024, the officer was part of a task force with the main focus being hostile street takeovers and racers. A large group of motor vehicles were meeting at the 11700 East Freeway in a parking lot in Harris County, Texas, when the officer observed the defendant's motor vehicle enter an area of the parking lot and began to spin his...
Si tú hablas, te pongo en la cárcel. Okay, sorry, please,
Would you like me to start from the beginning, Judge?
please.
Yes, Judge. On November 14th, 2024, the officer was part of a task force with the main focus being hostile street takeovers and racers. A large group of motor vehicles were meeting at the 11700 East Freeway in a parking lot when the officer observed the defendant's motor vehicle enter an area of the parking lot and begin to spin his rear tires with a loud screeching noise. The defendant's motor vehicle did several donuts, losing control of the rear end within 10 to 15 feet of other motor vehicles making up the pit. The officer observed the defendant's motor vehicle complete approximately 2 to 3 donuts, and a traffic stop was initiated. The officer made contact with the defendant, the driver and sole occupant, and the defendant admitting to doing donuts.
Run his NCIC. Does he have any other cases like this by chance?
I'll run his NCIC, Your Honor.
Please. Mr. Pearson, I'm going to find that there's probable cause to go forward with your case. Can you imagine if you start doing these donuts, you hit and kill someone? Who gets charged with murder?
Caldwell.
These are things you must consider when you're out there in the free world. You think before you act, think before you speak, because actions may be your last.
And Your Honor, he has no other open cases or criminal history.
Do you have a Texas driver license?
Sir.
Do you have liability insurance in your name?
Sir.
Can you run this license,
It's
please?
eligible, Your Honor.
I'm ordering you as a condition of your bond not to participate in activities like this again. No reckless driving, donuts, street takeovers, racing. If I find that you do, the first thing I'm going to do is take your privilege to drive away from you. And the next thing I will do is I will put you in jail. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
610. The freeways, toll roads, parking lots. This isn't the right way to put. You don't do this over there. And I'm going to tell you now, the Texas legislature has made it extremely easy for DAs across Texas to seize and take cars for individuals who participate in these types of actions. And I've had defendants come here with their cars seized, $50,000 trucks taken because of these types of actions. So be careful out there, because not only can you next time go to jail, but you may lose that very car that you had. Can you file those conditions, please? No donuts, reckless driving, etc. We are going to reset your case to give you time to hire a lawyer. So I'm going to have you sign a reset with Victoria. After that, we will have you take a seat in the jury box while we get your bond conditions. We'll have you sign it, and then you'll be free to go. When you come back, please have a lawyer, sir. Robert Potter. Mr. Potter, you're charged with driving while intoxicated. You're facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. We're going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to you, sir.
Yes, Judge. On November 17th, 2024, at 1:10 a.m. in the morning, officers conducted a traffic stop on the defendant's motor vehicle after observing it traveling at a high rate of speed, 67 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. Upon contact, the officer observed the defendant to be the driver and sole occupant and observed him with slurred speech, strong odor of an alcoholic beverage, and bloodshot, glassy eyes. The defendant admitted to drinking and scored himself as a 5 on a 1 to 10 intoxication scale. Standard field sobriety tests were conducted, HGN 6 out of 6, walk and turn 7 out of 8, one leg stand 2 out of 4. The officer observed the defendant to be disoriented, drowsy, had slow and sluggish reactions, was uncoordinated, unsteady, as well as disoriented during the tests. An inventory search of the defendant's vehicle revealed a 12-pack of 12-ounce Modelo's in the back seat, as well as a 6-pack of 14-ounce Michelob Ultra with 1 container left. The DICs were read and the defendant consented to breath, the results being 0.097 and 0.099.
Is there any evidence that he's consuming while he's driving?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Potter, I'm going to find that there's probable cause to go forward with the case. Do you have a valid Texas driver license? Do you have valid liability insurance
Yes, sir.
in your name?
Yes, sir.
Are you sure? Can you run his license, please? Any priority WIs?
No, Your Honor.
I'm ordering you as a condition of your bond, Mr. Potter, not to consume alcohol, illegal drugs, or unprescribed controlled medication. I'm going to randomly test you. If I find that you're consuming alcohol or any illegal drugs, unprescribed controlled medication, I will put you in jail. No more PR bonds. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
How old are you, sir?
19.
What do you do for a living?
Goal maker. Work. Finance.
How much money do you make a month?
Program.
We're going to reset your case to give you time to hire a lawyer. So I will have you go to Victoria, sign a reset. I'll get you with Fleischer for your bond conditions. And after that, you'll be free to go. Be careful. Don't use. I don't care what your excuse is. If I find that you're using, there's a one-way trip. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, man. Come on.
All right, good. Next is.
Morning, Judge.
Hi, Louise. How are you? Ms. Simmons Irving, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, you're charged with interference with the duties of a public servant. You're facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. We're going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. If you cannot afford a lawyer will be appointed to represent you, ma'am.
On November 14th, 2024, officers were dispatched to a trespasser call at a business in Harris County, Texas. The officers made contact with a witness who stated the defendant was asked to leave the business, but was refusing to leave. The officer walked over to the defendant and tried to inform her that if she refused to leave, she would be considered trespassing. The defendant would not listen and did not want to leave. The officer attempted to detain the defendant and place her in handcuffs, but the defendant kept pulling away, refusing to give the officer her hands. The defendant also braced her legs on the ground to prevent the officer from removing her, and the officer had to use a reasonable amount of force to place the defendant in handcuffs and remove her. The defendant braced her legs against the seat and door and prevented the officer from properly detaining her in the marked unit. And once in the unit, the defendant grabbed and pulled the officer's shirt, trying to pull herself out of the unit.
Okay, what store is this that she was in?
I have the address. I'll look to see if they have a store name listed.
Your Honor, ma'am, if I may speak.
Now's not the time. I mean, I've got a bunch of DAs here. Anything that you say, they're going to use it against you to prove guilt. You'll get the opportunity, I promise. Just now's not that time. How old are you, ma'am?
I'm 30 years old.
What do you do for a living?
I don't have a job. I'm disabled.
What's the nature of your disability?
I got cardiac web, a hematoma, deteriorating spine, hole in my heart, pulled over ligaments, bilateral kidneys, asthma, cancer.
How do you support yourself?
Currently at this moment, I'm supposed to be receiving, I got my Social Security claim number, but they refused to give me my award letter. And also, I was currently supposed to be residing at Vermilion Apartments, and my contract, I guess, was
I want to
switched.
talk about the case. I just want to know how do you eat? How do you get money?
I know.
I need you to fill out an application for me, and then I'll take a look to see if you qualify. As a condition of your bond, don't go back to this place.
It appears to be a housing facility.
Do not go back to this place, ma'am.
So I can't go back to Houston Housing Authority.
Whatever this place where they were trying to trespass you from, don't go back, ma'am. I'll provide you a lawyer today and we'll talk about how we go forward, but I don't want it to be more bad blood and I don't want you to go back to jail. If you go back, they don't want you there.
That's police brutality.
There's got to be some other reasonable way that we work things out and we'll try. But you got to give it time, let things cool down. If you go right back after this issue now, you're begging for trouble.
Well, my contract is supposed to be terminated on 11/30th, meaning I still have an active contract. So what am I supposed to be doing about that in regards to that? I mean, I have my paperwork to prove
I
it.
can't give you legal advice, but we'll have you talk to a lawyer and figure out how we go forward. Okay. For the time being, don't go back though,
Okay.
please, because it's only begging for bad blood. Okay. Yeah, so I need you to fill out an application for me. I'll have you sign a receipt of Victoria, and then we'll just have you take a seat while we find your lawyer.
Okay.
Okay, please.
Torres, Samuel, Ochoa Gonzalez,
You were Samuel Torres. Mr. Torres, you're charged with driving while intoxicated. It's elevated to a Class A misdemeanor because of the high blow, so you're facing up to a year in jail and or a $4,000 fine. We're going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you, sir.
Yes, Judge. On November 14th, 2024, the officers observed the defendant's motor vehicle make a wide right turn at an intersection with a dividing concrete median, accelerate at a high rate of speed from the intersection, failed to maintain a single lane, moving halfway into the center lane before returning to the outside lane, cross over a solid white line into a bike lane before returning to the lane, and the officer observed other cars in the area at the time, rendering the failure to maintain a single lane dangerous to the other motor vehicles. The defendant's motor vehicle stopped at a red light and remained stopped after the light turned green, obstructing traffic, and the officer then initiated a traffic stop once the defendant's motor vehicle finally proceeded through the intersection. The officers had to travel approximately 0.5 miles from the original location as the defendant continued to drive. The officer made contact with the defendant, the driver, and the officer observed bloodshot eyes, an odor of an alcoholic beverage, and the defendant stated he did not immediately pull over because he lives at the apartment complex where the traffic stop was eventually performed and did not want his vehicle towed. The defendant stated he was coming from his sister's house, and the officer observed the defendant using the motor vehicle to regain balance. The defendant stated he had one Long Island liquor drink that he was currently consuming inside the motor vehicle, and the officer found a frozen daiquiri still frozen and half consumed on the passenger side of the floorboard.
So he's drinking while driving?
Yes, Judge. And the officers performed standard field sobriety test, HGN 6 out of 6, walk and turn 7 out of 8, one leg stand 3 out of 4. The defendant was read the DIC and consented to breath. The results were 0.151 and 0.160.
Mr. Torres, do you have a Texas driver license?
Yes, sir, I do.
I'm now taking away your privilege to drive. You are not allowed to drive at all for any reason. And I don't give a rat's behind what your excuse is. If I find that you drive, I can have a contempt hearing. You can be facing up to 6 months in jail and a $500 fine every time you get into a car and drive. Do you understand?
Yes,
From
sir.
now on, you'll be taking the Dodge Patas. This is an affidavit that you're going to be signing with me today, promising me. And I don't care what your excuse is. If there's a burning building with 50 kittens you have to save, you get into a car and drive, we will have issues. I'm also ordering you not to consume alcohol or illegal drugs. I will randomly test you. If I find that you're consuming alcohol or illegal drugs, likewise, I will revoke your bond, put you in jail. You will not get any more PR bonds, sir. Any priority to be eyes, Alex? How old are you, sir?
23.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a mechanic.
How much money do you make a month?
About 24 right now.
Who do you live with?
My wife, my sister, my daughter.
Who else in the house works?
Just me.
Apply for an appointed lawyer, sir. So help me. Any issue, Mr. Torres, if I set your bond $5,000 to $10,000 and you ain't got anyone to pony up that kind of money, you will be stuck like Chuck until this case is over with. Make wise decisions while you're out there, because if you don't, I'm gonna keep you. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you mind giving me an application, please? Have you application for an appointed lawyer? I need you to fill out everything. Don't just put zeros because I'm gonna send it right back to you. I'll have you sign a reset with Victoria. You're gonna have to meet with Fleischer for your bond conditions, then we'll have you take a seat in the jury box. Do you speak English, sir?
Flores José Antonio.
Acérquese aquí al centro. Solamente mire el juez y le contesta con respeto en español.
Claro que sí.
Florencio Martinez Vasquez Guillermo
Sí,
Guillermo, yes, solo mire.
charged with driving while intoxicated.
Solo mire el juez,
sí,
por favor.
sí.
You are facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine.
De dormir.
We are going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney appointed if you cannot afford one, sir.
Nada para usted si usted no puede pagar por su propio. Solo quédese mirando al juez, por
Sí,
favor.
sí, sí.
On November 17th, 2024, the officer conducted a traffic stop after observing the defendant's motor vehicle run a red light. Upon contact with the defendant, who was the driver and sole occupant of the vehicle, the officer observed the defendant with bloodshot eyes and a moderate odor of an alcoholic beverage. The defendant admitted to drinking and advised that he was coming from a party. Standard field sobriety tests were performed. HGN, 6 out of 6. Walk and turn, 5 out of 8. One leg stand, 2 out of 4. Inventory search of the vehicle reveals one open 12-ounce bottle of Modelo.
Drinking while driving.
Yendo al estar manejando,
DICs were read
advertencias aplicarias
and the
en
defendant
el
consented to
acusado
correct.
consentimiento prevaliente.
The results being
Los resultados
.122 and 0.126.
.126.
Mr. Vasquez Guillermo, I'm going to find that there's
Vamos a
probable
hallar que hay
cause
causa
to-
razonable para
case.
continuar adelante.
Tell
con su
me,
caso.
are you a United States citizen?
Solo mire el juez, por
Are
favor.
you in this country with or without permission?
Permiso o sin permiso.
No, sin permiso.
No, without permission.
What happens if you go to
¿Qué
jail?
pasa si usted va a una cárcel? Acérquese, señor,
Sí.
y no me mire, por
Sí.
favor, solo al juez. ¿Qué pasa si usted va a una cárcel?
No, pues, no sé. No
Well, I
sé.
don't know.
Are you in this country with
¿Está en este
or without permission?
o sin permiso?
O sea, entré con permiso, me quedé.
I entered with permission, but I stayed, I remained.
If you go to jail,
Usted va a una cárcel.
and immigration finds you, Mr. Vasquez, they will put a detainer on you and you will be stuck in
Yeah.
custody until this case is over with. And then you will be shipped off to immigration, where you will sit for another 6 to 9 months waiting for immigration to do whatever they're going to do. I would hope that you recognize it's elementary that you're not to have alcohol in the car while you're driving. And it is a minimum of 5 days in jail to any sentence you get
Que usted reciba,
Sí,
if they allege
si
the open container. I will tell you now that immigration sweeps it every single day. So if you spend more than 6 hours in custody, you'll be stuck like Chuck with an immigration detainer. I am now putting conditions on your bond, and if I find that you violate these conditions, you will go to jail in a moment's notice. And I don't care if you're kicking and screaming.
sí,
Do you understand?
¿entiende, señor? Sí, señor o no, señor.
sí, entiendo.
You are
Yes, yes.
not allowed
Usted no
to
está
drive. And you will be signing with me today a promise that you're not going to drive. I don't care what your excuse is. If I find that you drive, to jail you will go.
cárcel irá usted.
Likewise, I'm ordering you not to consume alcohol or illegal drugs. You will be randomly tested. If you test positive for alcohol or drugs, likewise, you will go into jail.
De igual manera la va a ir a una cárcel.
Ujú. Está bien, está bien.
That's fine, that's fine.
Any priority to be eyes?
Yo
No, Your Honor.
Ninguno, señor. Solo mire el juez, por favor.
Sí.
Entienda eso.
Sí,
We are going to reset your case to give you time to hire a lawyer. So I will have you come up here, swear to us that you're not going to drive. This is an affidavit. I'm going to tell you now, Mr. Vasquez. Look at me.
Míreme,
This is the only
esta es la única
warning you will
advertencia
get from
que
me.
recibir de parte mía.
One violation whatsoever. I'm going to keep you with me.
Voy a mantenerlo usted conmigo.
Do you understand?
¿Entendió eso, señor?
Sí, señor.
Yes, sir.
Okay, coming up here, swear to us that you're not to drive. We'll get you to Victoria and then we'll get you with Fleischer for your bond condition.